I really like the S&P right now. I think that's
Okay.
a nice long trade. We was buying the NASDAQ, but let me just show you why I prefer the S&P. So if we look at this is the day chart of the S&P. And if we look at the NASDAQ, it's just a case of room to move into. Yeah, so they're very similar trades. They followed very similar structure, and obviously they're highly correlated. But we've been in this uptrend, yeah, and this area in here was a beautiful buy for the NASDAQ. But now we've had this bullish candle. There's not enough room to this last daily high. Yeah, so this is why I don't prefer the NASDAQ. And if we look at the S&P now, you can see the S&P is pretty much an identical trade. Yeah, we've got this uptrend that we're in. I love this area. Not only is it a horizontal area of support, but we've also got the moving average 20 as well. And, you know, like the NASDAQ, we've got that bullish candle. But more importantly with the S&P, we've got this room to move into back up to these highs. And you can see my target is this 4516. And then that's what I'm looking for on the day chart. And then I'll just drop down to areas that I'm interested in on the lower time frames. And, you know, this is having a lovely reaction on the H4 as we speak. So again, just following price action, guys. The price was in a downtrend, and then as soon as it breaks all of these highs in here, it's in an uptrend. Yeah, and we get a retrace back down to this gray zone. Yeah, what was once resistance becomes excellent support. Trade this pattern. Yeah, it's the nicest pattern. And we're getting a nice bullish reaction. So, you know, if it stays like this, we'll be looking to enter and take price back up to here, you know, perhaps put our stop down here, you know, and get a nice-ish risk to reward on the S&P. So, yeah, really like this S&P trade right now.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And again, you've always have my attention with indices because they're my personal favorite things to trade. That and gold. And speaking of gold, Frank, if you want to take over for a second, you've got something to talk about, right? With the gold sell that you're in. This thing is tanking here as we speak.
Yeah, I entered a gold short yesterday, and well, that's the S&P. But I'm currently hovering in profit. I got my entry somewhere up here in the 1920s, I think, and then I trailed down below this sort of support level. I think it was 1950 is where I have an SL, and I'm just writing this out to see how much farther it will go. What ideally I would like to see it come down to the 1880s range, where this is a kind of a long-term level of support. But you know, it's just a very choppy market and just lots of ups and downs. And I feel like making more conservative stop losses and taking profit if it does decide to come back up, even if it's a small or short-term rally. But I'm also...
Did you know our market scanning software, the EDGEFINDER, just got even better? Check out our newest asset, Bitcoin. That's right, Bitcoin was our most requested feature update, and we're so excited to announce Bitcoin is finally here with plans to add even more crypto in the future. We've also updated our most popular feature, the Smart Money Tracker, adding even more data than before. The EDGEFINDER not only automatically scores 8 different metrics for each asset to give it an overall buy, sell, or neutral score, but it also keeps track of bank and analyst positioning, stores historical fundamental data, shows how assets are trending throughout the day, and so much more. Right now, our YouTube viewers can get the EDGEFINDER at a discounted price when they use promo code A1YT. You can check out the EDGEFINDER with the link down in the description below, and again, get it for the special discounted price when you use promo code A1YT at checkout.
I thought it was funny Tom was talking about the S&P, because before I entered this stream, I got in a trade on the S&P just around basically this price right here, its current price, and I know it's, I guess, counterintuitive with inflation expectations going higher, but we could see a miss. We could also see a beat, but it's not really about fundamentals. It's more so about this choppy market behavior, and price in the past several hours has been kind of forming this uptrend. It's rejecting this trend line that Tom was talking about, and if it closes with that sort of bullish pressure, that I guess pin bar formation, I'd like to take or see it go up to another high above this level in the short term, and then obviously I don't really know where it's going long term. Right now, the market's very risk off. So this is more so a technical trade. My stop loss is pretty tight. It's just below the rising trend line, and just hoping to see some I guess bullish moves in the recent sort of behavior, but we'll see how that goes.
So another one I want to ask both you guys, I'll go to Tom first and then I'll come back to Frank on, is one pretty interesting chart right now is oil, actually. There's been a lot of fundamental news. A lot of stuff has changed. A lot of, to Frank's point just now, oil can be a confusing one because Frank just mentioned, the world is risk off right now. And so you might say, well, why is oil rocketing higher if there's like recession fears and, the Fed might crack down further? Wouldn't that put pressure on oil? It would in a traditional sense. However, what also is putting pressure to the upside on oil right now is, of course, a major contributor to the oil market, which is the supplying of oil, right? So Saudi Arabia, Russia, the US, major oil creators have the ability to, manipulate the price essentially by letting out or not letting out oil. So right now, there's a lot of kind of like supply shortages. They're holding back on letting supply out, and that's causing the price of oil to go really, really strong here. So Tom, could you give us just a little bit of a technical view on US oil? I mean, again, a very green chart here today. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so I want to trade oil. Is broken this is the weekly chart, and it's broken this key resistance level. Yeah, this was like super duper resistance, and it, finally broke this level. And you can see, the weekly chart is clearly in an uptrend, and I still think we got a nice amount of room to move into up to this area of resistance here, and this would be my higher time frame target. So, and everything's look at the candles, all bullish. Yeah, and if we drop down to the day chart now as well, the only problem for me, this is in an uptrend. Yeah, clearly. The only problem for me is that there's not enough value for me. I pretty much trade on retraces. Retraces give me better risk to reward, better prices to get in on, and better value. If I don't get a retrace with oil, I won't trade it. As pretty much as simple as that. And I won't, don't suffer with FOMO if it carries on flying up, so be it. But what I want to see, guys, is basically a retrace, down to potentially this level or even into this gray zone, maybe back to the moving average 20. But somewhere in here, this may not happen, but that's what I want to see. I want to see a retrace, an area of value, and then we can start taking this back up to that weekly level. So yeah, it's just a question of value for me. But I have had some nice CAD trades off the back of oil. So Canadian dollar strength, obviously off the back of this oil strength.
Yeah, Tom, keep going for a second with the CAD stuff. What have you been trading on the CAD side?
Okay, so we've traded Canadian dollar, Swiss franc today. So obviously, with oil being, with Canada being a big exporter of oil, if the price of oil is high, then this is, good for the Canadian economy. And we've basically been seeing an uptrend. Yeah, so price was coming down into this level, and then it just pretty much did nothing for days, and it found itself in this range. And as soon as it broke out of this range, I was interested in buys. Yeah, it's in an uptrend, and we've got some nice room to move into. We took some trades in here, yeah, and took it back up to here. But then we found ourselves at this new level here. But yesterday's candle broke that level. Okay, so as soon as I see this bullish candle in an uptrend, breaking an important area of resistance, and we've got room to move into, there's lots of reasons to like this trade. And like I mentioned before, guys, it was just a simple break retest. How many times do we see this in the market? So, this was the resistance level through here. Yeah. Once price breaks it, yeah, comes back, retests, it then becomes very good support. Okay. If I zoom into that, I actually entered on the H1, but you can see we've had a nice H4 candle, and price has just, gone bananas ever since. If we look at the H1 though, I just entered on this candle here, guys. Yeah, got this candle here into our grey zone, tested this last H1 low. Not very bearish candle, but the wick has just rejected that level. So entered here, stopped down here. The idea is to take price back up to here. So yeah, very Canadian cool. Swiss franc going well.
Well, yeah, great trade, Tom. There, that's awesome. And again, fundamentals, you mentioned it for just a second there. Canada, major exporter of oil, and a rising price of oil will, of course, act to help the currency strength, right? It's kind of like another fundamental kind of comparison is Australia and China. When China slows down, like it has been, the Australian dollar generally takes a beating too, because there's less demand for the currency. There's less strength and solitude in the Australian dollar because of their major relations with China in terms of raw commodities, Chinese, the trade that goes on in the Pacific there. So these things are real. These things are really powerful in the currency world to the demand for an economy's currency. Anyways, I also wanted to come to Frank on oil for a second here. Frank, I pulled this up. This is pretty cool. The EDGEFINDER, as of September 2nd, really September 1st and 2nd, generated some really bullish signals on the historical backtest page. So what this is looking at is it's looking at the EDGEFINDER's score over time. I've got oil pulled up here, and I think this is pretty cool. So what I did is I just marked up on the chart, the trading view chart, where this +6 and +3 score came into play. And here it is. I love to see this. This is really cool. So the EDGEFINDER was bullish and has remained bullish since that period of time on the EDGEFINDER. So I just thought that was cool, Frank, just to give that as an example. And then also I want to go to, again, we're still, as we speak here, we go to the top setups here. Still very, very bullish on oil in terms of top setups. What do you think right now on oil? And do you think there's a trade to be had somewhere in here?
Yes. So there's also more news on the fundamental side.
Okay.
There's Saudi Arabia and Russia are cutting supply by 1 point something million barrels a day for the rest of the year. So tighter restriction on supply and everything else we've talked about, it's a very obvious long trade in the oil market, and there's nothing the US can really do about it because we take in oil from those places. We don't really drill as much of our own, so we're very heavily reliant on things like that. So I do agree oil is definitely a buy, and the EDGEFINDER caught it early, but we talked about this earlier where we just want to see a pullback, and I think that's what I want to wait on. But price just keeps rejecting these short-term lows and coming all the way back up, so it's a tricky buy. I mean, if you want to hold on to it for a while and see where it goes, that's one thing. Yeah. But if you're trying to time it right, it's really tricky. So Oil is tough.
I would agree, Frank. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like just because it's bullish doesn't mean you jump to conclusions, right? This is, in my opinion, not the spot to buy oil. I think if you're short-term aggressive, maybe you're watching a pullback to like 87.5, and if you're more of a swing trader, maybe you're trying to wait and see if we get back to like 86. Those are levels that I really like personally, and I asked you guys both because I think I am going to keep a close eye on oil for possible trades here in the next few days to next few weeks. Again, that's a really strong catalyst, and what you just said, Frank, is my favorite trades. The obvious trades, those are my favorites, because as much as people think like, oh, it's obvious, so you should sell, everybody thinks it's a buy, you should sell, that's actually the time I think that you wait for a proper risk reward setup and you go with the obvious strong fundamental catalyst. You don't try and fight the headlines that are going out. You kind of look to play them with a proper risk reward. So I like oil long if we can get a pullback. So I'm glad you guys kind of seem to be on the same page with that as well.
Don't forget to check out the links in the description if you want our broker recommendation, access to our free Discord, free EDGEFINDER, or want to chat with us on Telegram. Remember, you can watch us live in the markets every morning starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we have lots more free trading tools and content available on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching.